Yo, what's good, everybody? Dave Loughran with Awesemo.com here with another video for you. And today, we're talking second-year receivers. Last year, rookie season for receivers was absolutely insane. From top to bottom, it felt like every single receiver drafted in 2020 went off. Now, that wasn't necessarily the case. And a lot of them who did have good rookie seasons could have been so much better had their progress not been derailed for one reason or another. We're going to talk about all of them, and I got a handful of guys today that I think are going to absolutely explode in their second year heading into 2021. So let's dive straight into this without further ado. But before we do, so I guess this is further ado, before we do, if you like these videos, you appreciate all this content here, and you think maybe along the way we've helped you out at Awesemo Fantasy Football Channel, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, help us get the 6K subs, and let's dive into it. Henry Ruggs may not have been a player you expected to see on this list, but I think there are more than just a couple of reasons to be excited about him going into year two. Ruggs is being drafted as the wide receiver 56 on Underdog Fantasy, which means we're hardly committing much draft capital to begin with. But it's what he can bring to the table as a sophomore receiver that gets my attention. Ruggs put on 13 pounds in the offseason, which he doesn't believe will affect his speed. He said it was mostly to improve as a blocker, but I don't think putting on some LBs is going to hurt him becoming a more physical receiver in contested balls. He already created good enough separation as a rookie, led all first-year receivers in yards per reception, and should absolutely be used a lot more in 2021. Look at it this way. The Raiders drafted Ruggs 12th overall, ahead of Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, and Justin Jefferson. Crazy, I know. But still, as the first receiver off the board just 1 year back, it would be an egregious misuse of first-round draft capital to not expand his role significantly in year two, even though the Raiders have been known to egregiously misuse draft capital in the first round. And the Raiders' offense isn't bad either. They finished top 10 in scoring last year, while Darren Waller posted the 7th most PPR points of any pass catcher, and the since-departed Nelson Agholor enjoyed his best season as a pro, with 896 yards and 8 touchdowns on 48 receptions. Derek Carr was solid too, with a top 10 adjusted completion percentage and the 6th highest yards per attempt. Still, Ruggs will have to put the pieces together on his own, and hopefully his insane speed and athleticism will be more than enough to get him involved not just as a deep threat, only 3 quarterbacks created more yards on deep balls than Carr last year, by the way, but also as a receiver who can create big yards after the catch on opportunities closer to the line of scrimmage. And John Gruden has already said he wants to get Ruggs involved as a lot more than just a deep threat this season. Ultimately, we're spending a double-digit round pick on the first receiver off the board in 2020. His disappointing 10% target share and 43 targets as a rookie can only improve dramatically this season, and we could see him as the number 2 option behind Waller and ahead of John Brown. What if I told you T. Higgins was 12th in targets in the 9 games he played with Joe Burrow under center last year? Or that he was the wide receiver 20 over that stretch? Yeah, Higgins was crushing his rookie season and was on a 16-game pace of 80 receptions, 1,206 yards, and 8 touchdowns before Burrow went down in Week 11 and was replaced by the likes of Brandon Allen and Ryan Finley, who were both disastrous. Higgins was the wide receiver 41 in the games those guys started, and what could have been an insane rookie season ended as an impressive one but left much to be desired. Now Joe Burrow is seemingly healthy, with both him and Higgins entering their second year with some experience under their belts. And while Jamar Chase is an insane talent, we can't ignore that A.J. Green was targeted over 100 times last season and is out of Cincinnati. Actually, Higgins, Green, and Tyler Boyd were pacing season target totals of 117, 124, and 144 respectively before Burrow went down. Burrow is a talented young quarterback who can support more than one strong wide receiver season, as evidenced by last year, and will likely have to throw a lot again this year, with Cincinnati's defense likely being mediocre at best. Burrow averaged more than 40 pass attempts per game through the first 11 weeks, where all 3 of his starting receivers were top 20 in targets, while Higgins earned a target share north of 20%, so you get the point. Oh, and did I mention no receiver saw more deep ball targets than Higgins with Burrow under center, even though he only caught 6 of those 22 looks. There's a ton of room for improvement there, though, even if Jamar Chase has an impressive rookie campaign. Higgins has a 45 ADP on Underdog as the 22nd receiver off the board, and honestly, I'm okay with it. But you can no doubt get him a lot later on other sites where Chase is going a lot earlier than Higgins. Chase Claypool was the wide receiver 22 last season, finishing the year with 62 receptions for 873 yards and 9 touchdowns on 109 targets. He also rushed 10 times for 16 yards and 2 scores. He had a few monster games as a rookie and was targeted 8+ times in 7 of his last 10 games. Granted, Ben Roethlisberger was forced to throw a ton in 2020 thanks to an awful offensive line that couldn't generate anything in the run game, and a lead running back in James Conner who was banged up for most of the year. And now the Steelers drafted Najee Harris in the first round to hopefully solve some of those problems. But that doesn't take away from the fact that Pittsburgh has a history of drafting elite receivers. And if Claypool's rookie season was any indication, he could certainly be one of them. Now, I understand Claypool had plenty of bad games, and a lot of his season totals were buoyed by a 4-touchdown game in Week 5 against Philadelphia. But 72 touches and 11 touchdowns as a rookie, despite playing only 62% of snaps, can't be overlooked. And of the 32 receivers with at least 100 targets, Claypool was 10th in yards per reception and 6th in yards after catch per reception. It's only reasonable to assume that Claypool is on the field a lot more in year 2, especially considering he possesses the speed and size to be competitive anywhere on the gridiron. And while there have been some concerns about Ben Roethlisberger falling off for a while now, he still supported not 2, but 3 top 22 receivers last year. Given that Juju Smith-Schuster will likely be the wide receiver 3 this season, and Claypool has the skill set to perfectly complement the smaller Deontay Johnson, it's hard not to feel good about him as the wide receiver 28 on Underdog. 1,000+ yards and double-digit touchdowns is hardly out of the question here. And time for an honorable mention. I really wanted to feature Brandon Ayuk in this video, but a few things concern me. George Kittle and Deebo Samuel played a combined 15 games last year, and with Raheem Mostert healthy and Trey Sermon in the backfield, the run game should look a lot more like it did in 2019, where only the Ravens averaged more yards per game. I'm still high on the 25th overall pick from 2020 and could absolutely see him having a big year, but all of those factors could end up derailing some of that progress we saw from late 2020. A couple of other names to throw out there quickly. Laviska Shenault. 78 ADP is just a little bit too high for me. I think he is another second-year player who could be very good this year, but with Travis Etienne being drafted in the first round and the potential that he lines up a lot as a receiver, the fact that Marvin Jones was brought in the offseason, and that DJ Shark is still in this offense himself, there's going to be a good amount of mouths to feed. Not to mention that Trevor Lawrence is still a rookie quarterback, and we've yet to see what he can do. Sure, Urban Meyer can use Laviska Shenault all over the field, and that's excellent. But at 78, it seems a little bit too steep for me to be grabbing him this season. And Jalen Reagor's another one. 129 ADP is the only reason I'm throwing him in here. I'm not saying that I think Reagor's going to have a huge breakout season as a second-year receiver, and it's very possible that he will just simply forever be remembered as the guy who was drafted 1 pick before Justin Jefferson by the stupid Eagles. Yeah, I'm still salty about that. But here's the thing. Devonta Smith is out right now and week to week, potentially going to miss most of training camp in his rookie season. If Jalen Reagor builds a true rapport with Jalen Hurts going into both of their second years, maybe he pays off that 129 ADP in spades, and we're not really risking much grabbing him there. And finally, Michael Pittman Jr. He would have been one of the top options in this list, hands down, had Carson Wentz not become injured and Jacob Eason looking like the starting quarterback to begin the season. They have an absolute gauntlet through the first 5 weeks. Very difficult matchups. It's very possible that they go 0-5 to start the season. And while Pittman going into his second year was a clear breakout candidate, being drafted close to the 100 ADP range, he would have been one of my favorite options. I just can't go there right now, though. Not to mention the offensive line continues to get banged up, with Quentin Nelson also missing 5 to 12 weeks with that same foot injury. If you haven't signed up for Underdog Fantasy yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. Seriously, best ball leagues are the greatest thing to fantasy football since PPR came around. I've been drafting a ton over there, from the puppy, which is $5 to enter, $100,000 the first, or the Best Ball Mania, $3.5 million, over $1 million to first, the biggest best ball contest ever ran. It doesn't matter what style of player you are, what your bankroll looks like. They got something for everyone over at Underdog Fantasy. And when you sign up using the promo code Awesemo, that's AWESEMO, you'll get $25 upon your first deposit. There's no reason not to check it out. You're absolutely going to love it. It works flawlessly, whether you're on an iPad, iPhone, desktop, laptop, it doesn't matter. UnderdogFantasy.com. Use that promo code Awesemo. Get $25 when you sign up and deposit, and go win yourself some money. All right, and time for the number one second-year receiver about to explode in 2021. CeeDee Lamb was the wide receiver 11 in the near 5 games Dak Prescott played in 2020. And that's with him going scoreless in 4 of 5 games. Lamb was still the wide receiver 24 on the season, despite some below-average quarterbacking from Andy Dalton, Ben DiNucci, and Garrett Gilbert. And he only played 64% of snaps on the year. I'd expect that number to climb considerably this season, and wouldn't be shocked at all if Lamb was the wide receiver 1 in Dallas. There are rumors that internally, the Cowboys have grown frustrated with Amari Cooper constantly being banged up. And now his recovery from January ankle surgery has taken way longer than expected. Not to mention that while he is a high-quality receiver, Cooper has never topped 1,200 receiving yards in a season and averages just north of 6 touchdowns per year for his career. You could argue that Lamb caught only 5 touchdowns himself last year, but he was targeted 13 times in the red zone, only 2 fewer than Cooper, and hauled in 25 scores over his final 2 seasons at Oklahoma. So it's not like the 6'2" receiver can't have an impact in the red zone or take one from anywhere on the field to the house. And let's not forget his insanely acrobatic spinning catch in the end zone last year, which in my opinion beats out Adam Thielen for the best catch of the season. Lamb has already been lighting it up at training camp with the same type of jaw-dropping catches we saw last year, drawing the attention of everybody, but mainly as sidelines Dak Prescott, who said, and I quote, "The one thing about being out, I can't play with my new toy," end quote, which, let's be honest, sounds pretty creepy. My bold prediction is that Lamb will finish as the Cowboys wide receiver 1 ahead of Cooper and produce more fantasy points than every second-year receiver. Yes, including Justin Jefferson. Crazy? Maybe. I don't care, though. He is absolutely that good. And let's not forget, Prescott was on pace to shatter the single-season passing record before breaking his ankle last year. The Cowboys averaged nearly 33 points per game in the 5 games he played, and even if their defense shows improvement after an awful 2020, there's no way they've managed to patch all of those leaks across one summer. Expect plenty of passing volume for Prescott and a true breakout season from Lamb. That'll do it for today. Thanks as always for watching. Hit that thumbs up and subscribe before you head out, and head over to Awesemo.com. Check out everything we've got going on for fantasy football and, of course, the daily fantasy sports world, headed up by the number 1 ranked DFS player in the world, Awesemo himself. I'll catch you back here for the next one. Peace.